You're listening to Podketeers.
Welcome to episode 354 of Podketeers. This is the final episode in our story of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. This week we talk about Mary Oceaneer and the real-world events that added to her story, the last additions to the parks that we saw, and we talk about where we think the story could be going in the future. If you have any thoughts that you'd like to share about the episode, we'd love for you to join the conversation over on Discord. You can check out the blog post for this episode at podketeers.com/354 for an invite link. You can also connect with us over on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Just search for Podketeers. Speaking of Instagram, Team Boat Willie is participating in the first ever virtual chalk walk to raise money for the Children's Hospital of Orange County. Auction details will be available on our Instagram account, and if you're listening to this after this particular event, you can always join us over on teamboatwillie.com for information on our latest fundraising efforts and the organization that we're supporting. That link again is teamboatwillie.com. It's super easy to remember because it's just like Steamboat Willie, but without the S. Before we jump into the episode, we'd like to take a moment to thank a very special group of people known as the FGP Squad, aka our podcast Fairy Godparents, because it's their monthly support via Patreon that help make these episodes of Podketeers possible. Being a part of the FGP Squad family gets you some additional perks like exclusive discount codes on Podketeers gear, additional content, and access to our monthly happy hour calls. If you would like more information on how you can become part of the FGP Squad family, we invite you to check out podketeers.com/FGP. And as always, a super special thank you goes out to the FGP Squad for their continued support. Finally, before we begin, I just want to let you know that the next couple of episodes are going to be very special for our Podketeers family as we step into the next chapter of the podcast. During our last Armchair Imagineering episode, Gavin announced that he will be retiring from podcasting to concentrate on some exciting artistic opportunities. And next week, we go down memory lane as we share some of our favorite times and conversations with Gavin on the podcast. The week after, we formally introduce you to Larry and Andrew, the newest members of the Podketeers family. Members of the FGP Squad already had a chance to meet them since we've had the opportunity to hang during the FGP happy hour calls, and I'm just really excited about some of the things that we have coming up, and we're eager to get those rolled out for you. So as we get ready to move into this next chapter, if you have any words that you'd like to share about Gavin, you can send us a DM to include in the episode. We'll just read it out. Or if you'd like to be a part of the episode, you can use the voice recorder app on your phone and email us a short audio clip to include in the episode. So that's it. This is going to wrap up this series. We hope that you've enjoyed it. As always, we appreciate you taking the time to listen and to hang with us. Here is part 5 of our talk on the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. This is episode 354 of Podketeers. Which I still think they're brothers, between Harrison and George Hightower. The story of Albert Falls might even connect him back to Melanie Ravenswood of Phantom Manor. Alright, apparently, if you pay attention to the portraits and the information around you, Melanie Ravenswood was dating. She wasn't married, because I don't think any of them actually ever got married. I think they were dating, and her dad was just super psycho and would take care of, these people that she was dating. But anyway, one of the guys that she was dating happened to be the captain of the Mark Twain riverboat there in Thunder Mesa, and he was a gentleman by the name of Captain Rowan de Falls. Rowan Falls. Captain Falls. Okay? How is he related to Albert? I don't know. They could be brothers. They could be cousins.
Could be.
They could be uncles. I mean, we went through this with George and Harrison. We don't know what the relationship is exactly, but they could be connected. And if they are, it just enriches the story even further.
Seriously.
Right? So, anyway, while Dr. Falls was off on his adventures in a different part of the world, England to be exact, the RV Oceaneer Lab took her maiden voyage on July 30th, 1898. And at the helm was Captain Mary Oceaneer. Some people may call Mary Oceaneer a pirate, but look, in her defense, it's never officially stated that she was a pirate, but she was a fan of all the pillage and the plundering. That's a lifestyle. Sometimes you just get into it. And just because you host a pirate night celebration on your ship on, I don't know, some random date, let's call it 1898. I don't know. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you're a pirate. Plenty of people hold pirate-themed parties, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, she was depicted in one portrait that I remember seeing her in where she's in like a dining hall or something like that, and she's actually dressed like a pirate and everything. So maybe she was a pirate.
Maybe.
Damn. Eat your heart out, Lizzie Swan, or Lizzie Turner, if you must. But more on Turner later. Oh. Either way, Captain Oceaneer's steam-powered Oceaneer Lab was this beautiful blue vessel that was adorned with golden details on its bow and stern. Definitely nothing like the Black Pearl, might I add. I mean, this was classy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it did serve as sort of a mobile home base for treasure hunting and deep-sea diving explorations. And on her ship, she had the best equipment available. Like, she was stacked, okay? As a matter of fact, to help illustrate how dedicated she was to this lifestyle, she had a custom scuba suit made for her parrot.
Whoa.
Yeah, for her parrot. You heard right.
Wow.
Yeah, Salty, her parrot, had a custom scuba suit. That's a hard flex right there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah? Oh, you go on treasure hunts? Oh, you go?
Yeah.
What's up? My bird goes on treasure hunts. What's up? As a matter of fact, my bird goes underwater. I was like, whoa.
Beat that.
Right? Now, it's unknown exactly when it happened, but it was that dedication to what she did that kind of earned her spot as a member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. On top of detailing the Nautilus for Captain Nemo, one of her most notable contributions as a member of the s.e.a. was that she created a map that depicted sea monsters of the Mediterranean Ocean, including some of cryptid and mythological origin. This map currently hangs in the Skipper Canteen. That map, by the way, actually pays tribute to the now defunct World of Motion attraction because it includes a depiction of the sea serpent, also known as Cymbalum horribilis, from the attraction. I'm pretty sure that sounds like a Harry Potter spell, but I don't even care. Cymbalum horribilis!
Hey.
Right? What does it do? It turns you into a sea monster. Who knows?
Right. Or one appears.
Or it's funny. Okay, so in 1899, the same year that one of the most famous photos of the s.e.a. members was taken, right before Harrison Hightower III disappeared, she traveled across the Orinoco River in South America, which turned out to be one of her most difficult trips because she had been shot by arrows while on this expedition. I mean, she made it through, but she's like, pshaw, arrows, whatever, and kept going, right?
Yeah.
December 1901 rolls around, and she went to the Isle of Castaway Cay in the Bahamas. And here is where she retrieved one of her most prized possessions while deep-sea diving for sunken pirate treasure. A solid gold sword that you can see her carrying in almost all of her portraits. Now, around this time, she was also in charge of a crew in South America that was sent to excavate a location known as Shipwreck Cove. Back in the 18th century, Shipwreck Cove served as the meeting location for the infamous Brethren Court. Now, if that sounds familiar to some of you, I know it sounds familiar to Melissa because I know she's a hardcore Pirates fan. That's because you may recall hearing about that location in the film Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Or if you're a world traveler like me via YouTube, or I don't know, if you've actually been on the attraction Battle for the Sunken Treasure at Shanghai Disneyland, you've probably heard the reference there. But why that location? You know, what's so important about Brethren Court or Shipwreck Cove? Well, it's a well-known pirate spot, first of all, so of course there's going to be leftover treasure, duh. In fact, one of the things she ends up recovering on that expedition was the dead man's chest. The little metal box that contains not only the heart of Will Turner, but also of Davy Jones. Mary Oceaneer has dead man's chest.
She's good.
Right?
She's good. Wow.
I mean, we see all the films. We see what Jack Sparrow's going through. And, you know, I mean, why didn't they just get Mary Oceaneer on the job? You know, she... Oh, I mean, it is happening. I mean, it is happening 100 years later. But whatever. They were ghosts anyway. You saw the Flying Dutchman. They were all ghosts anyway. Whatever. So years later, Captain Oceaneer sails on a new ship, right? One that was seemingly named after her parrot Salty, you know, the deep sea diving bird. And there's not a lot of info out there, but it's kind of implied that he died at some point, because now she even has a new parrot named Duncan. And she ends up naming her new ship the MS Salty the Fourth. What happened to MS Salty 1 through 3? I don't know. It's a weird, number. Does that mean that she had 4 Salties? And then after she's like, nah, that name's bad luck. We're going with Duncan now? I don't know where that came from. But regardless, she's got a new ship, the MS Salty the Fourth. So on top of all of those accomplishments, in the years that followed, Mary has this opportunity, right, to study one of the most well-known civilizations that no one has ever technically found, the lost nation of Atlantis. And to me, this is like an awesome part of the story, right? Because I love Atlantis. I've talked about this before. I've always loved these, I love secret societies. I love mysteries. I love, these mysterious locations around the world. And Atlantis is just one of those mysteries that there's a lot of unknowns, right?
Right.
But what makes her story so much cooler is the fact that she learned to communicate in Atlantean.
Right. Which made me think that there's a possibility maybe we will see a little bit of Mary's legacy in Tomorrowland. I don't know. We've been wishing. That would be cool, though.
It would be cool. But when you were researching, did you happen to ask yourself this? What if she found Atlantis?
Yeah.
Right?
Because, we could go as far as, did she know Milo's grandfather? I mean, there could be so much canon. Who knows?
I mean, there is. And look, honestly, if anyone's going to do it, it sounds like it's going to be Mary Oceaneer, right? She's got the skills. She knows how to speak Atlantean. I mean, she got shot at by arrows and she was like, yeah, keep going, whatever.
And she still lives.
And she's still there. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, actually, there's even a diving bell at Typhoon Lagoon that says, I come in peace in Atlantean. It's got other stuff on there, but the fact that there's, the Atlantean alphabet on there, Like
Mm-hmm.
the glyphs are from that. It's kind of cool, that
Yeah.
that's on there. So I don't know. I honestly, if I could put money on it, I'd be like, yeah, she found it, and either she was sworn to secrecy, and
Ah.
they told her, yeah, don't talk about our civilization. You're welcome to come back whenever you want. We'll grant you any wish that you want. Apparently now Atlanteans are genies, but they're like, we'll give you whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mention us. We don't want to ruin our civilization.
Right.
But I mean, what if she did find it? I mean, leave your theories. Join the conversation. Tell us in the comment section or join us on Discord and tell us if you think that she actually found Atlantis. I'd be curious to hear how many people actually think that happened. But I mean, on top of all of the things that she was doing, she still found time to write 2 books by the end of 1938. She wrote Parrots as Pets, I Wonder Why, and Charting Course, both of which, yeah, you guessed it, are at the Skipper Canteen in the library of other books that we've talked about already.
Of course.
So, not knowing the exact year, but from everything that I've seen, it's kind of estimated that it was around like 1955 when this happened. Mary and Duncan traveled to a tropical region called Blustery Bay. I would say that this was like their worst trip, obviously, because things really didn't go as planned. Like, if getting shot at by arrows was bad, they got caught in a hurricane during this trip, wreaks
Yeah.
havoc in the region, rips her ship in half, okay? Literally rips her ship in half, and it goes flying to different parts of the island. Everything that they're carrying, all of their treasure, all of the boat parts, they just go flying, and they are thrown onto an area called Misadventure Falls on the port of Placid Palms, which was near Mount Mayday, which was a volcano that was, part of the area. And so, yeah, so now all of the artifacts that they're carrying are scattered among the trees and around the bay. And, I mean, pretty much anybody that sees them can grab them. I'm sure she wouldn't appreciate that as the pirate, non-pirate that she is, but I wouldn't mess with her. Leave them there is all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, they grab all their stuff, and they do their best to establish, like, a salvage effort, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I think now is a really good time to kind of hop back into our real-world timeline. But before we do, I think it's also a good time to remind you that this episode of Podketeers has been made possible by the generosity of the FGP Squad, aka our podcast Fairy Godparents, through their monthly support via Patreon. Because being a part of the FGP Squad family gets you some additional perks, like exclusive discounts on Podketeers gear, additional content, and access to our monthly happy hour calls. If you've been enjoying this or any other episode of our podcast and would like more information on how you can become part of the FGP Squad family, we invite you to check out podketeers.com/FGP. And of course, to all of the members of the FGP Squad, we'd like to send a huge thank you for their continued support. Okay, so how does Mary's story line up on our real world timeline? Well, in 2016, a new play area was created for the Disney Cruise Line fleets, which would end up rolling out to the Disney Magic, the Disney Wonder, the Disney Dream, and the Disney Fantasy, which fully integrated the story of Captain Mary Oceaneer when the Oceaneer Lab area opened. Typhoon Lagoon, a water park at Walt Disney World, which originally opened back in like 88 or 89 or something, would also be reimagined to include Mary's story. Now, although it's not officially part of her story, that same year there was another notable addition to the lore of the s.e.a. because the Abracadabra at Disney's Boardwalk opened, and on display was an s.e.a. fez. Now, the Abracadabra is not just a fun word to say, but it's also a cocktail lounge that offers magician entertainment, and it's set in the 1930s. The story of the venue states that the magicians that performed there in the early days of the bar were always trying to one up each other. And at one point, there was this one magician who performed a disappearing act but was never seen again. Right? That was like his final trick.
Ooh.
So everyone freaks out because they can't find this guy. And they're like, wait a second, did one of these other magicians, knock him off? Like, is this one of those prestige things? Or is it the illusionist? One of those two. Regardless, bitter enemies. Maybe one of them made this disappearance happen. The bar closes, right? And so for 70 years, the bar is closed and then finally reopens. And so now, legend has it that the fez that's on display belonged to the magician that disappeared, an unknown member of the s.e.a. Now, again, that's just the legend. That's just kind of the story that they tell. I don't know how official that story is, but I kind of want to believe that that's the case because magic is near and dear to my heart. And it's kind of like Walt Disney World's version of the Magic Castle here in Southern California. So I'm all for it, especially if it ties in the s.e.a. somehow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I know. I'm assuming that drinks are still magically $30, but, whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so originally coined Misfortune Falls when it was first announced, the raft ride Misadventure Falls opened at Typhoon Lagoon in 2017, further expanding Mary's story. Now, until now, the majority of references to the s.e.a. were all at Walt Disney World or in parks around the world. Tokyo Disney Sea and, Hong Kong Disneyland. But 2018 brought the Society of Adventurers and Explorers to Disneyland proper in a huge way with the opening of the Tropical Hideaway. Do you remember how excited we were when this opened, Mel?
Yes. From the moment we heard about the news and everything, yeah.
I remember
cool.
all we did was, okay, so when are we going to go? How are we? We gotta go try. Okay, we gotta. And I mean, it took us a while, I think, when we were finally able to make it out there. But man, I remember when they first announced it, I was so excited because I knew much less about the s.e.a. at that point than I know now, obviously, after all this research. But even with the little that I knew about the society, I was so excited.
Yeah, you were.
I could not. I'm going to stop because I don't want to say something that's going to sound bad. But I was super excited. Right? I'm going to leave it at that. So, on top of that, the best part, I think, that came from the opening of the Tropical Hideaway is not just the fact that it cemented the idea of the s.e.a. inside of the parks, because we had small references, right? Like, we brought up Barnabas T. Bullion, inside of Rainbow Ridge and stuff like that. So, the inklings were there, but it wasn't like, here it is for everyone to see, right? And the Tropical Hideaway did that for us. So what I really enjoyed about seeing like all of these paddles, because we kind of mentioned the paddles, earlier, but what I really enjoyed the paddles is that it not only commemorated members that we knew, but it also kind of expands on the story with some people we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
So there's the possibility of further expanding this story there. Right? So, who do we know and who do we see on these paddles? To start, we see Barnabas T. Bullion, Colorado River, 1870. That's what it says on the little plaque commemorating that particular member on the paddle that I guess was used on his expedition. I seriously think that he did not go on this expedition. I really think he just paid and said that he did, but whatever. Next, we have Jason Chandler, Elaho River, 1882. We see Lord Henry Mystic, Ganges River, 1874. Harrison Hightower III, Yangtze River, 1872. I'm sure I mangled that name. I don't know how to say that river's name, but
I wouldn't
that's how
know
I
either.
think it sounds. So I'm going to roll with it.
Forgive us.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that I constantly also mispronounce the river that Dr. Albert Falls was known to go down, the Mbay River. So sometimes I say Mbay, sometimes I say Mbay. Regardless, he did it in 1903. And then Mary Oceaneer, the Orinoco River, in 1899. One surprise is the very deliberate inclusion of M.A. Pleasure, or Meriwether Adam Pleasure, Kissimmee River, 1900, further cementing the legacy of Pleasure Island and the Grand Fundmeister himself, Meriwether Pleasure. Before we continue our story, I do want to quickly jump in again, and I want to talk to you about Team Boat Willie.
Woo!
Team Boat Willie is the official charity team of the Podketeers podcast, and since we started, we've raised thousands of dollars for different charities inside of the Southern California area, and we are back at it as we are trying to raise money to help the children of CHOC, the Children's Hospital of Orange County. If you want more information on how you can become part of our team and help us fundraise, or if you just want to make a donation, you can head over to teamboatwillie.com. Super easy to remember because it's just like Steamboat Willie, but without the S. And you can find more information about us, our team. There's a vlog from the last chalk walk that we did. And since we can't be in the park to do the chalk walk the way that we normally do it, this year, chalk has gone virtual. We're doing the chalk walk. I was going to say from the comfort of our own chairs at home, but we're actually going to get up and walk. So I guess from the comfort of wherever we end up walking to rack up the miles to make the equivalent of it. But yeah, it's going to be super fun. But the important thing is whether or not you decide to walk, it's raising as much money as we can to help the children of CHOC. We have some auctions that are finally ready to go. At the end of March, early April is when you're going to see those auctions go up. They will be handled through Instagram, so make sure that you're following us on our Instagram at Podketeers if you want more information. Teamboat Willie also has an Instagram if you want to follow us there so that you know what charities we're currently raising money for. But we have the auctions that are coming up. And again, if you just want to make a donation or if you want to join the team and you want to help us raise money, please go to teamboatwillie.com, or you can go directly to our Chalk Walk page, which is chalkwalk.org/teamboatwillie. To the people that have already donated towards our goal, thank you so much. We truly appreciate it. And if you don't have the money to donate, the best way that you can help us out is by sharing our link. So make sure that you go to chalkwalk.org/teamboatwillie, share that with your friends, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you can. And we've done a $1 challenge in the past where we challenge people to donate $1 and then try to get somebody else to donate $1. And the whole goal is if we can get 1,000 people to donate just $1, that's $1,000. And I know I waste a lot on coffee, and that's way more dollars than just one. So anyway, again, that site is teamboatwillie.com. Super simple, just like Steamboat Willie, but without the S. Or you can go to our page, chalkwalk.org/teamboatwillie. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Send us a DM on Instagram or on Facebook. You can even join us on our new Discord server. If you go to podketeers.com, you'll find the link to our Discord server there. You can join us, ask us any questions. We'll be happy to help you out. So again, to everyone that's helped us out and everyone that's helping us spread the word, thank you so much. The children of CHOC appreciate it. Okay, back to the story. Among those names is also C. Falco, Zambé River, 1831. This paddle belongs to Camellia Falco. And I mentioned her earlier when we were talking about Jason Chandler and Vitaly Rubistelli, but it wasn't really until 2019 when Tokyo Disney Sea's version of Soarin', called Soarin' Fantastic Flight, was updated to integrate her story. And the entire attraction was kind of turned into this like retrospective view of Camellia Falco's life, right? And it represents like her story of being this aviation pioneer and how she developed this glider that she ends up calling the Dream Flyer, that was inspired by Leonardo da Vinci's flying machines. So it's interesting that, we see that paddle, the attraction gets reimagined, but then there was already these inklings of her in previous stories. And on top of that, Camellia Falco also holds the distinction of being the first woman that was a member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. So, it's cool that they're actually including a paddle for her as part of this display. So here is where that possible expansion begins, because another member on those paddles is s.e.a, Amazon River, 1910. Now, Sango has not officially been revealed, but there is a reference to him on a signed document made out to Dr. Albert Falls when he discovered the Cambodian shrine. Okay, his paddle has bite marks on it. So apparently, as he was going down the Amazon River, the piranhas were hungry. So
Yeah.
I think it was a cute touch. I kind of like that about his paddle.
It's pretty cool.
It's kind of, I don't know if that was the end of that member. I hope it wasn't, because then what I said sounds really bad. But I like the fact that this paddle has those little teeth marks on it.
Battle scars, he's still alive. We don't know.
Yeah. But what's cool about this is that because he's actually referenced on a document for Dr. Albert Falls, I'm like in the 90s percentile sure that Dr. Albert Falls is going to be referenced in the new Jungle Book film. Jungle Book.
Oh, yeah.
The Jungle Cruise film with The Rock. And
Yeah.
and because of the fact that he's on this document, I wonder if we're gonna see Sango in the Jungle Cruise film itself as well. It would make
Maybe.
sense,
Yeah.
I mean, even if we don't see the character itself, because it looks like the film is a lot. It's really in the future, as compared to the timeline when all of this happened, or when the members of the s.e.a. were known to be around. But the references of the characters, or a picture of the character, I think would be a cool way to incorporate them, because then we'll have that connection, right? Because I think I was never able to find a picture of Sango. Like,
No,
I always saw
me
the
neither.
references, I always saw the name, but a picture was one that just never existed. So hopefully we get that in the new film. Another character that we've actually seen but don't know much about is Dr. J.L. Batterista, Congo River, 1906. Now, earlier when I was talking about Mystic Manor, there's that big famous portrait that's on display as you're kind of walking through the attraction, and it's the one with all of the members of the s.e.a. and getting together shortly before Harrison Hightower disappears because of the idol that he refuses to give up. And what we do know about Dr. J.L. Batterista is that he was modeled after Joe Lazancero, one of the Imagineers that was in charge of the Mystic Point expansion. Will we see this character in the Jungle Cruise film? I kind of hope so as well. I think it's a really great character to at least introduce. This one, obviously, there is a photograph or a depiction of the character because he was modeled after an Imagineer, the same way that Harrison Hightower and Barnabas T. Bouillon were based on Joe Rohde and Tony Baxter, respectively. So at least we have a visual. But the next one is, I think, one of my favorite characters of this unknown, so to speak, group, right? And that was Professor R. Bluer Himmel. Again, I'm pretty sure I mangled that, but that's the Ucayali River, 1904. As far as the character himself, not much is known about him other than the fact that he was friends with Lord Henry Mystic. Otherwise, why would his portrait be hanging in Mystic Manor, right? What we do know about him, and this is like real life now, is that his character is actually a tribute to Imagineer Robert Coltrane, known to a lot of other Imagineers as just Ropt. He actually served as an executive creative director at WDI. And if I'm not mistaken, he was actually honored with the Disney Legend Award in August of 2020.
Nice.
So, with everything that was going on, I don't know if that flew under the radar because of what we were going through, or because they're saving it, for a big ceremony, which technically would have happened this year at this point. But yeah, I think I read somewhere that he was honored as a Disney legend in August of last year. And so I want to believe, obviously, that the R in the character's name is for Robert. But what's cool is that his last name, which is Bluerhimmel, translates to blue sky, which is the first phase of any Disney project. So
yeah.
It's such a really cool way to tie what Imagineering does with the story of the s.e.a. while paying tribute to somebody that's, made such a difference in the attractions that we get to enjoy. Finally, we have Chef Tandaji, Irrawaddy River, 1913. And, although we don't have a lot of info on his character, we do know that he's mentioned at the Skipper Canteen and is most notably known for documenting recipes that, he found around the world, and we know about his existence because he's referenced at the Skipper Canteen. Is this another character that we'll get a chance to see in the Jungle Cruise film? Or at least referenced?
Who knows?
Exactly. Who knows? But it'll be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, while researching all of this, I realized that the really wonderful thing about the s.e.a. is that it's this open-ended story that's just always evolving, right? And although we may not see it today, or it may take years, for new parts that are officially canon to be introduced into the storyline, you can tell that this secret society that Imagineers have created for us just beautifully merges our world and the world of the s.e.a. Right? And in a lot of episodes, especially as we've prepared for Armchair Imagineering episodes, we've talked a lot about how we don't see a lot of attractions that aren't based on existing IPs, because of how much they own and how much they've spent on acquiring a lot of these intellectual properties. Disney kind of has to put that stuff in the parks either to break even or to make it worth it, right? They have to capitalize on the fact that these things are popular. They're going to continue to grow in popularity, and that's why we're seeing them in the parks. But the s.e.a. breaks that mold. Although we're not directly seeing attractions that are based on new ideas, the s.e.a. characters, I don't know, they live in this world that is so creative. The story just gets richer and richer yes, we are getting attractions that are getting retconned. We are getting segments of the park that are being reimagined to fit into the story. And so, in a sense, yeah, I get it that we're not coming up with original ideas. But if you can't have an original attraction idea, why not have an original story to go along with that attraction? Right?
Right.
Again, it's not Johnny Depp and Pirates. It's the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's really the essence of this. And it's become such a popular part of Disney culture, like when you know about it, that it even went on to spawn these like side stories that revolve around characters even that are like outside of the Disney realm. There were some stories that included Velma from Scooby-Doo, the Doctor from Doctor Who, and look, let's be honest, we're never going to see those characters as part of any type of official s.e.a. storyline unless Disney
Right.
acquires the rights to all those characters as well, which the way things are going, who knows, they might, you know
Who
but
knows?
I mean, it's kind of cool to think that the
Mm-hmm.
story can even go beyond the Disney boundaries, even if it's unofficial. Even Tony Stark was a part of those stories. And the funniest thing about that is that, when Marvel or when Imagineering had to think of a way of integrating Marvel into the Disney universe, like when they started with Stark Expo, overseas and everything, one of the ways that they helped themselves was they created this story that revolved around Howard Stark knowing Walt Disney, and that Howard Stark created Stark Expo as a way of showing off all these cool toys. And then Walt went on to create Disneyland and then Tomorrowland as a way to showcase all of his cool toys.
Okay.
So the s.e.a. is truly Imagineering's version of the MCU, and just like Marvel, the next phase of the s.e.a. is just getting started.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And just how we were just talking about the characters that were just introduced. I mean, that's how amazing this story, everything that we've been talking about is like it's not just one solid story and that's it. It's ongoing. At this point we could say, can we say it's evergreen, because it's always new. Like it's just there's something and it's always going to be like that.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the
I mean,
that's the coolest part.
I would have to agree with you. As Disney continues to open new areas of the parks,
Mhm.
the possibilities are limitless, right?
Yeah.
Either with new areas, what's the new ship that was supposed to set sail this year, and then they decided to do it next year because of what happened. Um,
I can't recall.
the Disney Wish.
Oh, okay.
We talked about how the magic, the wonder, the dream, and the fantasy already have the areas of Oceaneer Labs inside of the cruise line. The
Mhm.
Wish. I mean, I haven't read anything about it. It was already supposed to set sail, but it was delayed because of what was happening. So I think it set sail like January of 2022 or something like that. But who knows what we're gonna see on the Wish? Who knows if on top of maybe in that one we don't see Oceaneer Lab. Maybe we see the introduction of a completely different character, or we see additional story get created for other characters that we haven't seen before. Because if I remember correctly, um, actually I don't remember where that one is supposed to set sail to, but I think it might be the same course as one of the other ones. Yeah, I mean it's a perfect opportunity to continue expanding on this, right? And as
Mhm.
far as
Definitely.
Tomorrowland is concerned, I don't know. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about what Tomorrowland was, what Tomorrowland should be, and what Tomorrowland is, right? And we've
Right.
always had these expectations that they're going to bring Tron, that they're going to do a lot of things that we see them doing at other Disney parks. But realistically speaking, without actually clearing a huge footprint of what Disneyland currently holds, it's not going to be possible to bring some of those attractions to Southern California. So, what if they started bringing in these aspects of the s.e.a. and they kind of make it like the tomorrow of yesterday as seen through the eyes of the s.e.a.? Like, what if it becomes a version of Fortress Explorations where it was Tomorrowland in their eyes? You know, I know it's
Ooh.
a stretch. But I mean, the possibility is there. And you do
Yeah.
have the opportunity, to start incorporating these other members that may or may not be a part of it. Do I actually think Howard Stark is a part of the s.e.a.? No. The characters kind of live in their own world, and I don't think they're going to mix Marvel characters because Marvel characters already have kind of their own timeline that they follow. They live in their own world regardless of the multiverse. But, this world lives in its own world, and I don't think they're going to cross-pollinate like that. But who knows? Maybe one day we will see Howard Stark as a part of it. But maybe there's a character that they name Howard Starch, that's based on Howard Stark or something. I don't know. I'm just tossing the ideas out there, Imagineering. Just, take whatever you want. Send me a check later. Just saying.
Right. Oh man. Ooh. You know what? So as I was like researching and whatnot, just learning about these different things, I actually learned, oh man, I kicked myself. I was actually close to one of the inklings, you would say, of the s.e.a. I didn't know that there was a letter and a painting from the Adventurers Club over at Alani. And it's actually
Oh,
at Auntie's
yeah.
Beach House. And I'm like, I only got into the lobby. I was like, man, I was so close. So close.
That
But
is so cool.
just thinking about that and how bad I want to go back to Florida to see everything else. Ah,
And
yeah.
that's the thing, right? That there's only so much that Imagineers can do
Yeah.
with the area that we have here at Disneyland. We've run into that before. We saw what they had to do in order to clear out space for Galaxy's Edge. We've seen what the expansion of California Adventure, did to that park. But, there's not a lot of space left unless they start clearing out other existing properties there. And
Right.
but the thing is that I think that with any expansion, there's going to be a lot of attractions that are already made for other parks that are going to end up here, right? It's just going to be a version of it, whether it's a simulator, just dressed a little different, free fall, or whatever the case is, some kind of dark ride. It's always going to be a variant of something that already exists because it's easier, it's faster to adapt existing technology to just another park. It's exactly what they did with Tower of Terror and the Hotel High Tower when they opened up Tower of Terror, overseas. So I honestly, at this point, if they were able to give us attractions or redress attractions in a way that we could get this story here, look, this is going to be a really unpopular opinion, especially for most people that like Ariel. But look, let's get rid of Ariel's Undersea Adventure and create a whole new version of some kind of trackless attraction that revolves around the s.e.a. And then take Ariel and put her in Fantasyland where she belongs. She doesn't belong on Pixar Pier. All right?
True.
So I know that I'm removing an attraction, but it's because it makes sense. It doesn't belong there. It belongs at Disneyland. It belongs in Fantasyland. But, again, I digress. I'm getting a little heated about that because you know how I feel about that. But, again, the s.e.a., man, there's so much that they can offer. I love that the story is just continuously expanding. And I'm just looking forward to everything that we're going to get in the future. If this TV show that was announced actually becomes a series on Disney Plus, man, I'm done. That's it. They
Yeah.
win. Take my money. I mean, I'm already giving them a monthly subscription fee, but I mean seriously, just take my money. Right? I'm there. I'm so in with this. So,
Totally.
I mean, I don't think there's much more to say about this. I mean, that's it. That's your introduction to the world of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. I know that this was long, as a multi-part episode. I don't think we've ever done this before, right? Like, not at
No,
least to this extent.
we haven't.
But-
And it's because there's just so much information and how it was presented. I mean, it's just we mentioned it, like how difficult it was to find like some information, or we wanted to know a little bit more about someone. We couldn't do this in 1 hour. No, not to properly tell it.
I think you can give a really basic idea of what it is in an
Yeah.
hour. But I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm glad that we had an opportunity to finally dive into the s.e.a. I started talking about doing an episode like this about a year and a half ago. And
Yeah.
like almost every month I'd be like, guys, we got to do the s.e.a. episode. Guys, we got to do the s.e.a. episode. But every time we would jump into it, there was just more and more and more.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the fact that the announcement for the TV show came was kind of the kick in the pants that we needed to really get this episode off the ground, because everyone was talking about it, everyone was really excited about it, and so again, I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to do it. Now I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I've spent so much time just researching
Yeah.
the s.e.a. that it'll be nice to finally get some sleep again.
True. By the way, did you know that there is a location about a few hours from us that we could go and take a tour and get like a feel of what possibly one of the birthplaces that inspired all of this? And that's Hearst Castle.
I've always wanted to go to Hearst Castle. It's on my list of things to do. The Carson Mansion, one of the things that inspired Mystic Manor. It's also in
Major
California,
road
which we
trip.
could also go to.
When things open up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally willing to go. Again, especially Hearst Castle. It's definitely on my list of places that I want to visit. And, yeah. I mean, obviously, before I go to Hearst Castle, once I feel safe, I'm going to go to Disneyland first. But, why drive so far when I can just go see the Haunted Mansion? The mansionest of all mansions, here.
Yeah.
And go visit Hattie, who I haven't seen in so long. But I will soon. I miss you, buddy.
Satire.
Love you, boo. I miss you. All right. I think I'm tired. We got to end this. So,
Okay.
yeah. So we haven't done an episode like this, but if you enjoyed it, please let us know. Join the conversation over in the comments section of Instagram, Facebook, or send us a message on Twitter. You can join us over on our Discord server. We just got it started not too long ago. It's a small community that's very slowly growing. We'd love to discuss this, and hopefully we do get a chance to see the new Disney Plus series based on the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. I know that I would absolutely lose it, and I would
Me too.
squeal like a baby. I'm all for it. So, by the way, a version of all 5 of these episodes will be up on Patreon for the FGP Squad without all of the cuts in between episodes. I know that we took breaks in between because this went on super long, and so a full version of this episode is going to be up on Patreon. So if you're a member of the FGP Squad and if you want to hear the story all the way through without all of the plugs and cuts and everything from week to week, make sure to check that out on Patreon. So Mel, any closing thoughts before we wrap up this series on the Society of Explorers and Adventurers?
No, I think I'm just like, I want to go back to Florida. One day.
I just want to go to Florida.
One day.
One day, I know I'll make it, and then people will finally be able to tell me you're not traveling the world if you're watching them on YouTube, Heyzen. All right, I'm tired. We gotta end this. So that's it. That's gonna wrap it up for this episode. As the s.e.a. motto says, Exploratorio continua. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep moving forward, and always remember to pass on the magic. Have a fantastic week, everyone.
Bye.